It's after midnight, and there's something I need to tell you about. Most people think the UFO cover-up is about hiding aliens, advanced technology, interstellar visitors the public isn't ready to know about. But what if I told you there's a group within the intelligence community, past and present, who investigated this phenomenon for decades and reached a completely different conclusion? A conclusion so disturbing, so fundamentally reality-shattering, that it's never been officially acknowledged? What if the cover-up isn't about hiding extraterrestrials, but about hiding something far, far worse? This is the story of the Collins Elite, and it begins with a rocket scientist performing black magic in the California desert. It's the year 1946 in Pasadena, California. Jack Parsons stands in the Mojave Desert with a small group of followers. If you know anything about the space program, you know that name. Parsons was a brilliant rocket engineer, one of the founders of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, JPL, NASA's Jet Propulsion Research Facility. But Parsons had another life. He was a devoted follower of Aleister Crowley, a practitioner of thelemic magic. And in January 1946, he began a series of rituals called the Babylon Working. The goal? To incarnate a goddess, to tear open the veil between dimensions, to invoke something Crowley called the Scarlet Woman, a divine feminine force that would usher in a new eon. Parsons kept detailed records. We have his magical diaries. For 11 nights, he performed increasingly intense rituals, invocations, offerings, sexual magic. He believed he was opening a doorway, and then he stopped. The working was complete. Now here's where it gets strange. June 24, 1947. 14 months after Parsons concluded his ritual. Pilot Kenneth Arnold is flying near Mount Rainier in Washington State when he sees 9 gleaming objects moving in formation at impossible speeds. He describes their movement as like a saucer skipping across water. The term flying saucer enters the public consciousness. 2 weeks later, something crashes near Roswell, New Mexico. The modern UFO era has begun. Parsons himself noticed the timing. In his later writings, he wondered if he had succeeded, if he had opened something, let something through. In 1952, Jack Parsons died in a mysterious explosion in his home laboratory. Officially ruled an accident, the details remain murky, but his question lingered. Did the Babylon Working open a door? And more importantly, what came through? Fast forward to 1991. Dr. Ray Boach is an Anglican priest and paranormal researcher working in Lincoln, Nebraska. He receives a phone call. 2 men want to meet with him. They say they're Department of Defense scientists working on a classified project. They have information about UFO research. The meeting happens in a quiet cafe. The 2 men are nervous, cautious. They won't give their names. And then they tell Boach something that changes everything he thought he knew. They tell him about the Collins Elite. According to these sources, the Collins Elite is an unofficial group, past and present members of the Pentagon, intelligence agencies, and military research divisions who have been investigating UFO phenomena since the 1950s. But their investigation took a very different direction than Project Blue Book or any public program. The Collins Elite wasn't trying to prove UFOs were extraterrestrial. They were trying to prove they were demonic. Boach was stunned. These weren't fringe conspiracy theorists. According to them, these were serious researchers with access to classified files, encounter reports, and decades of data. And their conclusion was theological. The entities aren't from another planet. They're from another dimension. They're the same beings described in medieval grimoires, in biblical accounts of demons, in the hierarchies mapped by Renaissance occultists. They're lying about who they are, and we invited them in. Now, I know what you're thinking. This sounds insane? Demons? Really? But here's what makes this disturbing. The Collins Elite allegedly built their case on pattern recognition. on comparing historical accounts of demonic encounters with modern UFO phenomena, and the parallels are unsettling. Behavioral patterns. Demons in religious texts are described as deceivers, masters of illusion. They appear as angels of light. They manipulate perception. UFO entities do the same. Abductees report being shown false realities, screen memories, messages that prove to be lies. The phenomenon seems specifically designed to confuse, to resist concrete analysis. Both demons and UFO entities are obsessed with genetics and reproduction. Medieval accounts describe succubi and incubi, demons that sexually assault humans to create hybrid offspring. Modern abduction reports? Nearly identical. The alien hybrid program. Forced reproductive procedures. Beings creating human-alien hybrids. The Collins elite saw this and asked, what if these aren't two separate phenomena? What if it's the same entities, adapting their deception to match the era? Geographic patterns. UFO hotspots cluster around religious sites, sacred mountains, ancient ritual locations. Demonic encounters in historical records? Same locations. The Fatima apparitions in 1917, 70,000 witnesses saw the sun dance in the sky. Miraculous lights. A glowing disk. The Catholic Church called it a Marian vision. UFO researchers call it a mass UFO sighting. The Collins elite allegedly asked, what if both interpretations are wrong? What if it's neither angels nor aliens, but something else entirely, masquerading as whatever we're culturally prepared to accept? Communication methods. This is where it gets really weird. People who have contact with UFO entities often describe the same process. Automatic writing, channeling, telepathic downloads of information. These are the exact techniques used in ceremonial magic to contact spirits. Medieval grimoires give step-by-step instructions that are functionally identical to modern ET contact protocols. The Collins elite noted that abductees and occult practitioners were doing the same thing, opening themselves to non-human intelligence, just using different terminology. Same door, same entities, different name on the welcome mat. Physical effects. Demonic encounters produce specific physical symptoms. Time distortion, missing time, paralysis, feelings of dread, sulfurous smells, burn marks, radiation-like effects. UFO close encounters? Identical symptom profile. The Collins elite compiled medical reports, historical accounts, and testimony. The overlap was too consistent to ignore. Now, here's where this gets darker. Because if the Collins elite existed, they weren't working in a vacuum. In the 1970s, the CIA ran a program called Operation Often. Most of the files were destroyed, but what survived shows that Often was researching occult phenomena, demonology, possession. They hired practitioners of ceremonial magic as consultants. They investigated whether supernatural forces could be weaponized. Why would the CIA do this? One theory: they were trying to understand what the Collins elite had discovered. If UFO entities are demonic, can they be controlled? Summoned? Commanded using the techniques in medieval grimoires? Was the government trying to do intentionally what Jack Parsons did accidentally? There's also Project Stargate, the remote viewing program that was declassified in 1995. The documents are public now. And buried in those files are sessions where viewers describe encountering non-human intelligences during deep meditative states. Some of those viewers reported that the entities were hostile, deceptive, dangerous. The program was officially shut down. But some researchers believe it went black, continued under a different name, because they discovered something they couldn't ignore. So if any of this is true, why hide it? Here's what the sources told Ray Boach. The Collins elite concluded that disclosure would be catastrophic. Not because people can't handle the existence of aliens, but because people can't handle the truth that realities fundamentally spiritual, not material. Admitting that UFOs are demonic means admitting materialism is false. Religious cosmology is objectively real. We're in a spiritual war. The government has no defense against this. Technology won't save us. We're dealing with entities that have been manipulating humanity for thousands of years. That's not a disclosure. That's a paradigm collapse. The alleged fear was that if this information went public, you'd see mass religious movements, occult experimentation as people try to contact these beings, social breakdown as scientific worldviews shatter, governments losing legitimacy because they can't protect citizens from interdimensional entities, so they buried it. Better to let people believe in little gray aliens from Zeta Reticuli. That's a problem we can theoretically solve with technology, with military defense, with scientific understanding. But demons? You can't shoot a demon. You can't negotiate with it. You can't reverse engineer its technology because the technology is supernatural manipulation. The cover-up, according to this theory, isn't about hiding advanced science. It's about hiding that science isn't enough. Now, do I believe all of this? I don't know. But here's what bothers me. The Collins elite theory explains things that the extraterrestrial hypothesis struggles with. Why do UFOs behave so absurdly? Why do they appear on radar, then vanish? Why do they seemingly violate physics? Why do encounters feel more like psychological warfare and scientific observation? Why do abductees report experiences that sound more like occult initiation rituals than medical experiments? Why has 75 years of UFO research produced thousands of sightings, hundreds of close encounters, and zero reproducible physical evidence? What if it's because these entities don't want to be proven? What if ambiguity is the point? What if they operate specifically at the edge of belief, too real to dismiss, too strange to confirm, because that's where they have the most power? Medieval demonologists understood something. Demons work through deception, through manipulation of perception, through consent. You have to invite them in. And what did we do in the 20th century? We broadcast our presence into space. We performed rituals, Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley, countless occult lodges doing spiritual workings. We opened ourselves to contact. We invited them in. I want to be clear. The Collins elite may not exist. Ray Boach's sources may have been disinformation agents. This could all be a psychological operation to muddy the waters around genuine UFO research. But sometimes I think about Jack Parsons in the desert in 1946, performing his ritual. And I think about Kenneth Arnold seeing those objects in 1947. And I think about thousands of people since then, reporting encounters with beings that lie, that deceive, that seem interested in corrupting rather than enlightening. And I wonder, what if the government's darkest secret isn't that we're being visited, but that we were never alone to begin with? What if they've always been here, in the spaces between, wearing whatever mask makes us lower our guard? What if the UFO phenomenon is the oldest deception wearing modern clothing? The Collins elite allegedly believed we opened a door we don't know how to close. And the things that came through are still here, still watching, still lying about what they are. Sleep well.